In this video, I'll be going over 25 defending tips that will help any rank. These tips will range from super easy tricks you probably didn't know to advanced tips that will help in most situations. And the first tip I'll be going over is to shoot glass off of windows. So if you're more new to the game, you might see a lot of people shooting glass off of windows and you might be wondering why they're doing that. The reason why you want to shoot glass off windows is so you can hear what's on the other side better. So if someone rappels on the window, you can actually react to it and you won't be surprised once they start shooting at you. So I'm going to do a test between when there's glass on the window and when there's no glass on the window so you can hear the difference. But the next tip I'm going to be going over is to play passive. Now, when and why you want to play passive is basically the opposite of when and why you want to play aggressive. If you're up in man advantage, that's when you're going to start playing more passive, backing off, holding less aggressive angles, things like that, so that you don't throw the man advantage. Because think about it, if it's a 5v4, you get a pick early in the round. If you continue to play aggressive and you go down, now it's just a 4v4, and that pick that you got basically meant nothing. Versus if you get a pick early in the round and you kind of rotate back, play more smart, and you don't die, now that kill is turning the tide in your favor by a lot because they have one less person to work with. A very common mistake you'll see is if you're up, 5-3 or 5v2, whatever, you see a lot of your teammates on defense will start running at the attackers and giving them free kills. That's going to cause you to lose rounds, and that's really the only way that you can throw man advantage is if you play more aggressive when you actually get the man advantage. That's why you want to play more passive so the attackers have to actually push you, because it's much harder when you can set up crossfires on certain areas that they have to push from. You can start refragging. It's going to be really hard for the attackers to actually push into the site if you play passive. But the next tip I'll be going over is smoke cover. Now that sounds kind of weird, but I'm going to be going over some situations where you should use smoke's ability that a lot of people don't usually do. So usually when you're using smoke's ability, you'll use it to deny a certain area and slow the attackers down. Now that's obviously great if you can do that, but you don't know if that's going to be achieved with your smoke. So in my opinion, great uses of smokes are also using smokes to retreat from a certain area, to actually push up on a certain area, and also using your smokes that you can push through them. The reason why this is so good is because smoke's loadout is a shotgun and an SMG, and this SMG has a lot of recoil, so a lot of people are going to be better off using it in close range, and it should be used in close range most of the time. So you can use his smokes to either push up on the smoke to actually take a close range gunfight, because you know that the attackers cannot swing through your smoke or else they're going to take a lot of damage. So once you push up off of that smoke, you can then go ahead and swing them with the shotgun. It also suppresses the noise while you're doing so, and you can also use smokes to retreat from a certain area. So if someone's right here and they're starting to push up, throw your smoke, activate it. If you were stuck here in this corner or whatever, I could run away because they can't push through the smoke. It's much better to use your smokes in these ways because they're helping you a lot rather than wasting one or dying with a smoke in your pocket. But that leads me to my next tip about holding angles. So first thing, if I'm sitting here holding an angle and someone quick peeks this door and they see that I'm sitting there on that angle, they're just going to re-peek and pre-fire and they're probably going to kill me due to peeker's advantage. So instead of sitting here holding this angle when somebody knows exactly where you are, you just reposition to a different angle because you don't want to hold the same angles. And another thing, when you're sitting here holding an angle, the person that comes around the corner is going to see you so early that you don't even have a time to react. So if you notice a lot that you're dying when you're just sitting still like this holding an angle, it's probably because of peeker's advantage and they're just zooming around this corner. They don't even have to have good aim. Just because they're moving and you're standing still, they're going to get the kill on you. Try to move around a decent amount when you're holding angles so it's a little bit harder to just swing around and easily kill you when you're standing still. And another thing I want to talk about is off angles. So when I come around a corner, I'm going to be checking the common angles that I know. So as a defender, if I'm sitting on one of those common angles, they're obviously going to see me and they can pre-fire me. But if I were to sit right here tucked on the door and they don't know I'm here, I can just wait for them to get close to the door and swing them. Not going to usually be expecting that if they don't have any information on you like a drone or something. But the next tip I'm going to be going over is the tuck rule. Now this sounds kind of weird, but I didn't really know what to call it, so I'm just going to explain it. But let's say I was roaming over here in cash and I know that someone's like near server, they might have ran up red, the garage, whatever. Instead of sitting here like this and they're going to have the peeker's advantage on you when they swing this door, go around the corner like this, make sure your laser's not in sight if you have a laser, and then once you hear them and you think that they're either sprinting at you or they're peeking, whatever, then you can come around the corner and then it's more even. So the next tip I'm going to be going over is to how to silently prep windows. So if you don't know what prepping window means, is basically if you hit the barricade, then it's going to allow you to jump out the window and then you can run out on whoever you want to run out on. But the main thing you want to look out for is if there's glass on the other side of the window. Oregon is a map where there is glass on the other side of the window, so even if I punch it like this, the people on the other side are not going to hear it. The only time that they hear the glass breaking is when I jump out of the window, and by then I should be able to go for the kill on them. But on certain maps like Clubhouse, there's no glass on the other side, so if I punch it, the attackers on the other side are going to hear it. So a way that you can do it much quieter is if you just shoot like 2 bullets into the corner like this, and then put your crosshair at the bottom of this yellow line like this, boom, just punch it twice. Now the window is going to be prepped and it's much more quiet. So now I can just vault out the window like that, and the attackers will have no idea because it's much more quiet. But if there is glass on the other side of the window, you can just freely punch it if you want to, or you can still do the same method. It doesn't really matter. But the next tip I'll be going over is impact tricking. And there's a lot of situations where you can impact trick. I'm not going to be showing you, every instance, but I'm basically going to be showing you some general situations where you can impact trick. So the first instance is whenever there's a reinforced wall with a soft portion on top, all you have to do is just shoot out this top part. So as you can see, there's a thermite on the other side of the wall. Now this would work if there was an ace, whatever, anything that's on the other side of the wall. All you'd have to do is jump up on top of here, and you just want to throw your impact at something that's on the other side. So you could throw it at the roof if that's possible. You could throw it at this little part right here. And so as you can see, when I throw it, on the other side, the thermite does get destroyed. So the next way that you can impact trick is if there's a hatch on a soft floor, all you have to do is make holes in the floor if there's something above. So in this case, there's 2 like metal counter things up there. And so as you can see, there is a thermite on the hatch. So all you have to do is you wait for them to place down the thermite or the ace charges or the Habana pellets, whatever. And so as you can see, the thermite charge is off, and basically what's happening is you're hitting the bottom part of this thing right here and it's destroying the thermite charge. So another way that you can impact trick, now this one only works against ace, is all you want to do is wait for the ace charge to go off. You can crouch like this, and then you just want to throw it instantly where the first ace charge goes off. And basically, you're wasting one of their ace charges, and what you'll see a lot of the times is they'll just throw 2 straight like that. So they'll throw 1 on this wall, 1 on this wall. You can destroy both of those, and basically what you're doing is you're stopping them from making an actual vaultable hole. And so now all they can work with is just a line of sight, which as long as you don't peek it, then you're going to be fine. So another way that you can impact trick, and this is probably the last, common one that you'll see, is if there is a drone hole next to a wall. But as you can see, there is a thermite charge on the wall, and it needs to be somewhat on the left side for this to actually work. And it's really simple. Just you can lay down like this, use your impact outside like that, and as you can see, it's going to destroy the thermite charge. And like I said, that's probably the 4 most common ways that you can do impact tricking. There is some other ways that you can do it on specific maps and sites, but if you know those 4 ways that I just showed you, you're going to have great success impact tricking. So I feel like a lot of people when they're playing Siege, they don't know when to swing, when to not swing, when to play aggressive, when to not play aggressive. So the number 1 thing that you want to look for when you want to play aggressive is the man advantage. Basically all that means is whoever has more people alive during the round. So if it's 5v5, it's even. If it's a 5v4, whoever has 5 has the man advantage. And so whenever you're down in man advantage, that's when you're going to want to start playing aggressive so that you can kind of even it out and make it so that you don't get overwhelmed. So if you see yourself going down in man advantage, don't sit around and wait for the attackers, because it's going to make it easier for them to set up their attack when they have the man advantage, because they have more utility than you, they can pinch you, they have a massive advantage on you when they have the man advantage. So if you can try to catch them off guard and take one-on-one gunfights, that's how you can even out the man count and make it a better round for you. But the next tip I'm going to be going over is plant denial. So if you don't know what plant denial is, basically plant denial is stopping the attackers from planting a diffuser. You can do this in many different ways, and I'm going to go through some of the best ways to stop the attackers from planting a diffuser. So the number 1 way is basically operators that are area denial operators. And if you don't know what that means, I don't know if that's the exact term for it, but it's basically operators like smoq, goyo, and tachanka that can stop attackers from entering a certain area with their ability. So if I was playing smoq and I know the attackers are going to try to go for a plant, all I have to do is chuck one of my smoke canisters right where the default plant is. Obviously you do have to know where the default plant is. That really just comes with time, but on this specific site, it's right here usually. It can depend on certain circumstances, especially if they're planting in this bomb site over here. But what you can do with smoq is basically you just chuck one of your smoke canisters onto the default plant and activate it, and obviously they can't sit in the smoke like this because they're going to die. So they're forced to back up, and that's basically wasting their time and causing them to reposition, which then you can obviously take that gunfight if they're in a vulnerable position. But if you were playing goyo, you can pre-place your goyo canisters on the default plant so that you can easily shoot them when they go for the plant. Another really good way to stop plants is actually go below the diffuser or where default plant is, and you want to throw a C4 or an impact. Now obviously if you have a C4 below someone, it's obviously going to kill them if you want to activate it, if you actually get it right. But something a lot of people don't know that you can do with impact impacts is if you throw it right where someone defusing, so you can use a pulse scanner or you can use a vault cam, and all you have to do is just throw your C4 impact right where they're defusing. This is going to waste a lot of the attacker's time and you can potentially get a free kill on them. But the next tip I'm going to be going over is to use default cams. Now this tip is going to work if you're anchoring or if you're roaming, but especially if you're roaming, you definitely need to get on default cams in the beginning of the round to know where the attackers are pushing from, so you can actually rotate over there and actually contest them when they're trying to enter the building. Now like I said, this definitely helps the best when you're roaming. Like if I see someone's entering from junkyard, instead of me wasting my time in small tower with a chance of no one ever entering here, I can use the information that it's guaranteed that they're going to be pushing from this side of the map to actually rotate over there and contest them. You also want to keep in mind which operators are running. You can obviously ping them because most likely they're going to shoot the default cam anyways. So if you just ping them out of spawn, it's going to pop up on the top of your screen and you can know which operators are going to run, which is also going to help you. And as an anchor, if I'm sitting in sight, to help my roamers, I can actually go on default cams, check default cams, oh, someone's shower hall, whatever, and it's going to help your roamers. But like I said, it still definitely helps you when you're anchoring because you can tell if they're going for the main wall, if they're going to push big window, whatever they're going to do based off of their operators and where they're actually spawning and where they're running to. But for the next tip that we have is how to actually play post plants. So obviously you don't want to let them get the bomb down, but chances are eventually you're going to encounter a post plant one way or another. So in these post plants, you got to remember you're going to have to play aggressive because most of the time you're going to have to kill the attacking team. But you do want to look for your one-on-one, so if you can catch an attacker off guard and take that one-on-one gunfight and try to win that one-on-one gunfight, then that's definitely going to help. And if you can also bunch up with your teammates, don't obviously peek the same angle, but if you can kind of go for refrags or at least tack the same guy at once, that's definitely going to help. And another thing is you also can use certain abilities like smoke canisters or Fenrir mines or something like that to throw at the attackers to basically force them to move around, because as an attacker, when you're in the post plant, you don't want to be peeking that much. You want to play kind of passive. So if you can use your smoke canisters and different things like that to force them to move around, it can allow you or your teammates to go for kills on them. And you got to remember, time is not on your side. You only have 45 seconds, so make sure you're using your utility if you actually have any. Try to take your one-on-one gunfights, try to play for refrags, try to pinch the attackers. Don't beat yourself so much about losing the post plant as a defender. Really just make sure you try to not let the attackers get the bomb down in the first place. That's what you really need to focus on. If you see that you're letting the attackers plant the bomb a lot of the times, you need to fix that rather than, actually losing the post plant itself. But the next tip I want to go over is to force the attacker's presence. But what I mean by force the attacker's presence is make it so that they have to make some sort of noise to actually make a play onto you. You can do this with barbed wire, Fenrir mines, proximity alarms, different things like that. Because think about it, if I place a trap somewhere, they either have to shoot it or they have to hit it, which is going to, make them take damage or kill them depending on the trap. Like I said, you can use things like barbed wire. If I'm defending kids/bunks, you want to place barbed wire bottom white so that they can't just walk up white and try to frag out on your team without anybody knowing. You want to place mines on big window. You need some sort of utility attic, something main. You need to make sure that the areas that they can attack from, they can't just do it without making any sort of noise. And if you realize the reason why you're dying a lot of the times is because you don't know where someone's pushing from and they end up killing you, then start running more trap operators, start placing your barbed wire down in smarter spots, use proximity alarms, whatever you need to do to make sure the presence of the attacker is known before they can even get to you. But the next tip I'm going to be going over is to have a plan. Now this matters a lot in solo queue because I like to set up my strats so that I'm kind of self-sufficient, versus if I'm in a 5 stack, I can have my teammates to help me with certain things and it's going to be better. But for solo queue, I like to kind of be more well-rounded and be able to set up what I need without the help of a teammate. So that's why having planned out strats and actually knowing what you want to do and how you can do it is going to help you a lot. And even if you do have a teammate or two, or even if you're in a 5 stack, if you don't know what you're going to do for the round and how you're going to do it, there's no way you're going to win. So you want to plan this stuff out before the round starts. You can watch better players play the game, especially if you're a solo queue player. You watch other people solo queue, see what strats they do, and then there you go, you can pick it up. So the next tip I'll be going over is pocketing a mute jammer. But now this seems kind of weird, but there's actually a lot of instances where this can help you out, especially if you're kind of roaming a little bit off site. So the first way that a pocketed mute jammer is going to help you out a lot is if there's a nomad. So as you can see right there's a nomad, and there's also a nomad right here. So you could inch your way around to shoot it, but that's going to be pretty loud. They're probably going to hear your gunshot. So what you can do is place your mute jammer down like that, and it's going to mute the nomad. Another instance you can use a pocketed mute jammer is if they have a claymore. So in this situation on Chalet, let's say there's a claymore on the outside of this window. All I have to do is place down my mute jammer like this. Then you can prep the window to vault out. Vault out, as you can see, the claymore is going to be muted, and I can kill anybody that's on the main wall when they're in basement. And then another instance is if you're getting Dokkaebi called, all you have to do is place down your mute jammer while you're on the roam, and boom. Because if you're somewhat off site and you don't have a mute jammer near you, you, you can just easily quickly place down one and then the call is gone. Another instance is if you're being targeted by Deimos, just quickly place down a mute jammer. As you can see, it's gonna stop. So the next tip I'll be going over is how to counter shields. So the first way is trap operators like Legion is very good because he has to stop to take him out. Melusi slows him down, you get the gist. But let's say that you don't have trap operators and you realize that they have a shield. So the first thing is you want to keep your distance away from shield operators, because if they close that distance on you, especially if their shield is down like this, they can just melee you and kill you easily. And also if they do have their shield down, if you can time the first melee, like let's say there's no time for you to really turn around or whatever, if you can melee his shield before he melees you, as you can see, he's super exposed. He can't shoot back, he can't cover himself up. But when they're like this, it's kind of hard because you have to go around and shoot their legs. But if you can get that first melee in, then that's definitely going to help. The next thing is C4s and impacts. Now this is a very big counter to Monty because they're going to do the most damage to him and it's the most safe way to kill him. Even if he has his shield fully extended, the C4 or the impact is still going to do a decent amount of damage to him. But if he doesn't have it extended, a C4 is going to kill him and an impact is going to do a lot of damage. So if you have those, that's definitely going to help, as well as operators like Smoke, Goyo, and Tachanka slow him down a lot with their area denial. And there's two operators that are going to counter shield the best, and that's Oryx and Warden. Now Oryx is best against pretty much any shield operator, but Warden specifically is best for blitz. The reason why Oryx is so great is because, as you can see, Oryx stacks the shield, easily kill them. He's pretty much the best counter to shield operators. As long as you can somewhat close the distance on them, you run at them, it's going to be a free kill for you. This works against Monty, blitz, whatever. But yeah, like I said, Warden is a great counter to blitz because as soon as blitz tries to flash Warden, activate your glasses and you can't be flashed by him. So it counters the main point of Blitz's ability. And if a Blitz or a Monty are sprinting at you, obviously you want to shoot their feet because it's going to be vulnerable. So now that you see how many counters there are to shields, you'll see why they're not as strong as a lot of people think they are. But the next tip I'll be going over is not getting skipped over. So if you're roaming off site, let's say the site is basement and I'm roaming on the 3rd floor. Let's say I'm anticipating someone to come in from garage or something like that so I can peek them from here, or they might try to go 3rd floor for certain reasons. Whatever, I'm just roaming in this area. It's just an example. But if a minute goes by and I have not encountered anybody and I check cams or something like that, or I get a call out and they're kind of closer to site, maybe they're in bar, basically what's happening right now is you're getting skipped over. You don't want that to happen. You want to be able to contest the attackers as they're trying to enter the building, as they're trying to get closer to site, so it wastes a lot more time. That's why it's very important to check cams when you're roaming, because you can obviously tell where they're coming from so you can test them earlier. So you don't want to get skipped over. That's why getting on cams and pressuring them as they're trying to enter the building, as they're trying to get closer to site, so that they can't set up flank and do all this different stuff. You want to waste their time as early as possible. But the next step I'm going to be going over is shield placement. So first thing, when you're placing a shield and there's some sort of cover next to it, like a wall like this, you don't want to place it flush with the wall. I'm not going to say you never want to do this, but in most situations when you do this, they know all you're going to peek from is the top or the left. Compared to if you move it over a little bit, they don't know if you're going to peek from the right, top, or the left. So it's much harder to die when you have all three ways that you can peek from. Also, when you have your shield flush with the wall, if you have a teammate that's a Jaeger or a Wamai and they're trying to protect your shield from an Ash charge or something like that, they have to place their utility more out in the open so it can easily get shot from the windows in this example. So it'd be much smarter for them to place it on this wall right here. But the problem with that is if they place it on this wall right here, if someone ashes it from one of the windows, the Ash charge is not going to get intercepted before it hits the shield because the ADS is back here, and the Ash charge would hit the shield before it actually gets caught by the ADS. So what you should do is back up your shield a little bit and have it like this. And this is just in this example. So now I can peek from the left, have a little bit of a pixel angle, the top and the right. So it's more unpredictable and it's going to be protected by a Jaeger ADS if you place it right here. But the next tip I'll be going over is pixel peeks. Now, if you don't know what pixel peeks are, it's basically holding an angle that's super tight like this so that you can just barely see what you're actually looking at. The reason why these are very strong in Siege is because you heard me talk about peeks advantage, right? So when someone comes around this corner, they're going to get a good 3 bullets off before I can even react if I'm sitting on an angle over here. So reason why the pixel peeks are so good is because the person that's swinging from over here can barely see you when you're on this pixel peek because you're going to be the least amount of exposed. So it's going to be much harder for them to kill you on this angle. And the main reason why pixel peeks are so good in Siege is because if I'm an attacker and I'm trying to cross over towards site, right, I have to cross over this angle. So when I'm holding this pixel peek, I'm guaranteed going to see the attacker that's over there. So once I see them go by, let's say they go over here, whatever, right? Once I see them cross over, I can then swing them, turning the peeker's advantage in my favor. Because they're guaranteed to pass over this angle, you know, okay, they can barely see me, I'm the least amount of exposed as possible basically, and they have to cross over the angle, so once I see them cross over, I can just swing them. If you start using pixel peeks in this way, not to actually get a kill on the pixel peek like this, you don't want to be shooting people on this little sliver, but once you see them cross over, you can then go for the swing, which is going to help you win a lot of gunfights rather than you sitting here exposed on an angle, getting pre-fired once they come around the corner. But the next tip I'll be going over is to pre-place C4s. So a lot of people know about this, but some of you might not actually know that you can place C4s below a soft floor and then wait for someone to walk over the soft floor and then blow it up. You can use different utility like vault cams or a pulse scanner or something like that to help you figure out when the person is actually walking over the C4, and you can do this pretty much anywhere. And the thing is, this is super easy to think of your own spots. It doesn't take a, super complex thought out plan, but something that you can do is you can go to default plant spots. So this is a pretty default plant spot, and you can just throw a cam here, or you can just wait for the sound of them planting. Then you just go below, place your C4, you can hop on the cam, wait for the sound of the plant going down. You can just see someone over there. You can use a pulse scanner, whatever you need to do. And then once you know that someone's on it, blow it up. You don't need any gun skill. It doesn't take that much game sense to think of how to do this. You can do it on so many different maps, so many different situations. Echo's ability is usually used as Plantinal, which is a very common way and a very good way to play Echo. But a lot of people don't realize you can play Echo aggressive and do some really cool tricks to get some free kills. So if your yokai drone goes outside, it has 10 seconds to get back inside. Now this used to be like 3 seconds or 2 seconds, but when you have 10 seconds, you can scout out a lot of information. So what you can do is just drive your drone straight out, see if someone's attacking dirt, if they're placing down a breaching charge, hard breach charge owner, or whatever, drive it back in, run out, and then you can get a kill. So another trick that you can do with Echo, if you rip down a barricade on a window, throw your Echo drone like right about here, drive it up just a little bit, like right there, and then you barricade the door back, and then you go into your Echo drone. As you can see, it's pretty much outside. So you can get a lot of information like that, and once again, they spawn right over there, so they're going to be running through. What you can do is once they stop to shoot the default cam or whatever, you can just red ping them, like act like that was a red ping, pre-fire through the window. Just make sure you have your other drone in sight so it can actually be used for information if you end up dying. But the next tip I'll be going over is ghost pressure. But if you don't know what ghost pressure is, it's basically doing something to make the enemy think that you're a threat when you're really not. You can use footholds, head holes, certain utility, different things like that to create ghost pressure. Like this example on Clubhouse, you might not necessarily use these holes, but just when the attackers see them, they're gonna think, oh, is someone peeking from that? Anytime you create ghost pressure, you can end up going ahead and using that ghost pressure later on the round once they're not worried about it. Another way is if you're defending gym, you can make footholds along this wall. So now if anyone's in gym, they know that they have to be wary of the footholds, so they might not enter this area. Even if you're not going to be playing it, just from them seeing the footholds when they're outside the window, they're not going to want to jump in. Another thing that you can do is you can put punch holes in a wall like this. So when I turn this corner and I see a bunch of different punch holes, I'm going to start pre-firing whatever, and then you can use that opportunity, shoot them from another side. Or if you don't kill them when they're over here, next time that they come around the corner, let's say they start shooting at the hole, but they turn back like this, next time they turn around, they're not going to shoot the holes because they already shot at them. So you can take that opportunity to actually peek through the holes. There's a lot of different examples you can use ghost pressure, but it's going to waste a lot of the attacker's time. And in certain situations, you can end up using the ghost pressure to get kills. But the next tip I'll be going over is map control. So if you don't know what map control is, basically whoever is holding on to a certain area of the map. So take Con for instance, if I'm controlling this area of the map, then I have that piece of map control. And if you don't think about Siege in a map control way, it becomes really hard to defend the site because you super easily get collapsed on if everyone is just sitting in sight, or when your roamers are so far off site they're not actually helping to contest the attackers that are attacking the site. So to make defense easier, you need to hold on to crucial points of map control. Usually this is the rooms next to site. So if I'm defending gym/bedroom, I could hold on to Con, Cache, and CC to make it a lot harder for the attackers to actually attack our bomb site, because we're wasting time much earlier and we're not allowing them to open up the stuff that they need to open to actually win the round. So you can use your utility like shields and different stuff like that, help with reinforcements to help hold certain pieces of map control. And once you start thinking of Siege in a map control way, you're going to win a lot more defensive rounds. But the next tip I'm going to be going over is to waste time. Now time is a very important aspect of defense, like I've said before. So one of the best ways to secure some rounds on defense is to waste a lot of the attacker's time. You can use operators like Smoke, Tachanka, Goyo. You can use barbed wire to slow them down, make them break it. You can use a shield so they have to destroy it. A lot of things waste time in this game, but it's also very important when you're roaming to waste time, because when the attackers are just starting out their push, that's when wasting time is the most important. So if I'm roaming and I'm trying to contest them from entering meeting side of the map, you continue to shoot their drones. That's very important. If you continue to shoot their drones, it's harder for them to actually clear you out, wasting their time even more. And just constantly putting pressure onto them, it's going to make it harder for them to actually set up any push that they're trying to do. It's going to make them make more forced plays later on in the round. So the next step I'll be going over is actually for Mozzie. So all you want to do for this is you just want to shoot a little hole in the floor and then place your Mozzie pest in that hole. So now you basically have an indestructible Mozzie pest, because no attacker should be getting this close to it to be able to shoot it like that, because as you can see, it's being covered up by the floorboards like this. So you have to get like right up on it to actually destroy it. So you basically have an indestructible Mozzie as long as you don't let them get that close to it. So if you place it somewhere where they can't get close to it, then it's pretty much indestructible. As you can see, once the drone drives through, it's going to get caught by the Mozzie pest as normal. So the next step I'll be going over is going to help you bandit trick much better. So before you ever reinforce the wall, what you want to do is shoot holes in the wall like this. Now it's much better if you have a teammate do this with a shotgun. Basically, you want to shoot pretty big holes in the wall. Okay, so now that you've opened up the wall, now you can reinforce the wall. So now that you've done that, we can get into why this is going to help you when you're bandit tricking. So when you're bandit tricking, timing is very important. You want to know when the hard breacher places down their ace or their thermite or whatever it is. You want to know that so you can time it correctly. And so what these holes are going to do is they're going to allow you to hear much better through the reinforcement. So when they place it down, you're going to be able to hear it much better. As you can hear, as soon as I hear it placed down, I can go ahead and destroy it. If you feel you improved from this video or you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing. And if you want to watch more of my content, then click the video popping up on your screen.